All right. Hey, everybody. It's Nicole Bonner with Thriving in Chiropractic, and we are here today with our co-host, Colton O'Brien. Hey, Dr. Colton.
Hey, what's going on, Dr. Nicole?
Oh, man, all good stuff because we have an amazing guest on our show today. Um, Dr. Johnny Mack. See, I call him Johnny Mack. And Johnny's been a chiropractor for 31 years. And really fascinating thing I just want to say real quick about Dr. Johnny is, I really, John, for all these years, you and I have not really known each other, but in the past year, I feel like I've gotten to know you and you've become like, one of my great friends. And
Same here, Nicole.
yeah, and that's just who you are. And so I'm going to put my glasses on because Johnny's done a lot in our profession and for our profession. So before we jump into our interview, if it's okay with you, Colton, I'd like to take a minute just to tell our viewers a little bit about Johnny. I got to put these glasses on though, so don't mind me. Okay, so Johnny is a pediatric, brain-focused, family-orientated chiropractor. Once again, guys, this guy has been serving the masses for 31 years. Do you guys that are opening a practice, do you think you should listen to what he has to say? Say yes. Say yes. He's certified by the Academy Council on Family Practice as a certified Academy Council in chiropractic pediatrics. He has Webster certification from the ICPA, which is awesome, awesome, awesome. A certification, guys, I highly recommend you guys looking into. I have my Webster certification, got it years ago as well. Dr. Colton, do you have your certification?
I do.
Awesome. Let's see, what else? Also, the prenatal certification. He also has this prenatal certification from the Academy Council of Chiropractic Pediatrics. Gosh, Dr. Johnny, you certainly love kids. That's for sure. And 31 years in practice, which we had said. He's been involved on the political level, which I can't wait, especially in our climate today and everything that we're going through as chiropractors and as parents, especially. I can't wait to ask him questions about that and what's going on with that. He was on the board of the New York Chiropractic Council for 16 years. 16 years. Guys, some of you guys watching this have been like, we're kids, but the whole time he was on the board, right? He's on the board of another organization called Be the Crash. I don't know what that is, but we're going to find out what that is today. He was the chief information officer. And I love that. This is his quote. I believe if we love what we do, we work to protect it. So that's probably the reason why Johnny Mack and I hit it off right from the beginning. The moment we met is because we have the similar belief systems. And Johnny, I believe the same. So say hello to our guests and our viewers today.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me today. My name is
Awesome.
Dr. John McAtamney, so Johnny Mac is what everybody calls me, but that's because the last name is a little tongue twister.
Yeah, say it slowly.
McAtamney.
All right. I like Johnny Mac better though. I like Johnny Mac better. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to talk to you about, Johnny, is can you tell us a little bit about how you got into chiropractic? What's your story? What's your chiropractic story?
Story's a little bit different. I believe that everybody gets called to chiropractic, and I got called twice. So first time, I was 15 years old. I was very bookish. Already decided at that time I want to be a veterinarian. And I got pretty sick. Now, I have to preface this because it's a little bit different. I'm a son of Irish immigrants. And in the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s, they didn't really trust medicine. We had no familiarity with chiropractic. We didn't know anything about it. But I was pretty sick and medicine was not working. And somebody told my parents, this guy can help. We didn't know what chiropractic was. He didn't really tell us what chiropractic was. But when I went in there, I was really, really sick and unwell. And he was an AK doc, and he was pretty astute because he looked at me and said, "Oh, you're unwell." And I said, "Oh, you're pretty smart." I was a snarky 15-year-old. 20 minutes on the table, AK-based work, and some osseous Gonstead. And I got up off the table a changed person. I was not only no longer sick, something inside had changed. And I asked him, "What the heck did you just do?" And he said, "Life is supposed to flow through you and bring you to different levels and stages in life." And he said, "Someplace in the choices you've made in the lifestyle you've lived so far, even at 15, he says, you've impeded that process. You put your foot on the hose and the garden can't grow." And that little simple statement, I was like, what? So I got under regular chiropractic care at 15 years of age. Now, I said I got called twice. As a son of Irish immigrants, I was raised in the construction industry. And by the time I was 18, 19 years old, I was going to school, paying for college out of pocket. And I was making some very large bills in construction. 19 years old, making over $1,000 a week. And I said, "What do I need to go to college for?" I called up my chiropractor I saw that at that time, and I said, "Hey, doc, I can't make it in today. I got the hives." And he said, "What does that have to do with me? Get in the office." I said, "I can't get in the office." I said, "I can't put any clothes on." He says, "If you don't come to my office, I'm coming to your house." So I went in, and he was upper cervical. So I got adjusted. I got scanned, thermometered, 3 adjustments over a 3-hour period of time. At the end of 3 hours, he was satisfied and sent me home with what I know now to be pure niacin and a liver flush. And in the histamine sort of haze that I had, I took them wrong, and I took a double dose. That basically caused me to fall asleep for 15 hours. And when I got up, my skin peeled like a snake. I had what's called a Herkheimer's reaction, or retracing, as we would know it in chiropractic. And I've never had the hive since. When I told him that, he said, "So why haven't you submitted your application to chiropractic school?" And I said, "I don't need to be hit a third time. I know what I'm supposed to do." So that's how I got into chiropractic school. That's what pushed me in my direction. I find it particularly an important point, because when pandemic hit, we were told we weren't supposed to talk about immunity, and both of my occurrences that pushed me into this profession had to do with my immune response. So
And so it must like really frustrate you when, like, especially during COVID times where people were like telling us not to talk about immunity. Like, how do you talk about chiropractic and not talk about immunity?
I don't know, and I didn't follow the rules.
Good.
I
I don't
just
think.
didn't make it. I didn't put it up on my social media or anything like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome. So that's an awesome story. I love it. Colton, do you have, I don't want to like bombard this whole talk. Do you have questions for Johnny you want to ask yet, or not yet? Because I have a bunch of questions here.
Yeah, this is my first time getting to meet Mr. Johnny Mac, the chiropractor. So I'm just here to kind of soak it all in, just like the audience as well. And as questions come, I'll ask them.
Cool. Because so John, one of the things that I want to ask you about is you've had a tremendous amount of contribution to our profession, and in a positive way, especially keeping the chiropractic philosophy in our forefront. One of the things that you're involved in is the Long Island Chiropractic Band of Brothers. So can you tell us a little bit about what, how did that come about, and what is that?
well, the Band of Brothers was a concept put out by Dr. Dick Santo, Lord rest him. He was a DE doc, and he said that chiropractic needed a band of brothers, just like the movie. One chiropractor locked in arm with his brother next to him, and a wall created so that together we're stronger. And I was participating in a Band of Brothers that was hosted by another doc here on Long Island, who, due to changes in his life, he basically had to retire and move away. Seeing how valuable it was, I said, this can't stop. So I took it upon myself to continue the process. And before pandemic, we were meeting in person in Doc's offices. And it was basically to talk about principle and success and get our minds wrapped around the philosophy and really what Dee and BJ were putting together when they did this particular profession and granted it to the world. Then COVID came and we had to switch to a online process. So basically we meet online, and initially it was sort of the same people getting on. But when I started promoting it to a larger audience, we had people from Connecticut and from Jersey and from Pennsylvania, and people started coming on to the calls. What I have been amazed about is because it's done simply from my heart, and it's done because I care so much about what chiropractic stands for. I have called people pretty much all over the country that I either have met personally or have connected with through social media. And I'm actually overwhelmed by the amount of help, assistance, and gift of time that I've been able to pull together. And the library that I have, which I'm basically working to clean up so that I can put it up on a YouTube channel, it's absolutely amazing. And the amount of stuff that I've learned and the clarity that I've gotten and the clarity that other people have gotten and the understanding just in that alone, it's probably one of the most valuable things I've ever done.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's just so important. I mean, I'm a new doc kind of in our profession, but I mean, I think just being out for about 6 months now, and that's been like my lifeline, just being in practice alone, but having the opportunity to call, my mentors and friends and chiropractors where we can stay rooted in what this profession was built on and kind of bolt each other up in the philosophy and in just the business aspect and all that. I think that's amazing that you do that.
It's a place where you can be mentored and be a mentor. The relationships that have grown out of the Zoom calls that the docs build personally among themselves, whether they're geographically located or not, has been pretty amazing to watch. I know that the brotherhood that I have from the local guys around here, if I needed any help from them whatsoever, they would basically give me the shirt off the back. But at the same time, we get together just on a personal basis, like we're getting together for dinner in a couple of weeks, a bunch of us from the group, just to sort of break bread and share time with each other outside of a meeting. And I practiced in the New York, Long Island area, and one of the things that I did take for granted for a long time was that I could go down the block and get an adjustment. I could go to the next town and get an adjustment. And then when I started traveling years ago, I met chiropractors that the nearest chiropractor was 30 miles away. I didn't. When you go to other parts, like just in Nassau County alone, I have 600 chiropractors. Wow. So there's Suffolk is another 600. So there's 1,200 chiropractors within a 50-mile range. It's something that we take for granted here, but at the same time, I think that need to be able to connect and be mentored, or just to sort of, hey, can you check me? Or I got a question, and it's somebody that you can call next door down the block that is not in competition with you, but in support and colleague. Because look, nobody is full, and if you're really busy, just get an associate and keep going. There's not enough people under chiropractic care, so there's loads and loads of people to see.
Johnny, I'd like to speak to that a little bit, because a large part of our audience are either chiropractic students or people who are opening a practice. And one of the things that I help people with is finding a location. And I hear so many limiting beliefs on location. One of them is just that is, that they don't want to be in a location where there are a ton of other chiropractors. And I'm like, well, why not? you build your practice around your life, not your life around your practice, right? So can you speak to that a little bit more for these newer docs that have these belief systems that are holding them back? Because I'm in agreement with you. There's no such thing as competition.
No,
I
I can
believe
speak
that.
directly to that. I work as a mentor with some young docs myself. So the first thing is, forget this question about where you want to practice. The question is, where do you want to live, right?
Mhm.
And then you build your practice where you want to live. It's the
Yes.
relationships and the connections that you make as part of a community, and then people find out who you are, and it breaks down their resistance to come in and see you because they realize you're just a regular person. You just have a different vision and purpose. Now, when it comes to building your practice, if you are a family practice, everybody, right? If you don't have an avatar, you don't have a specific kind of person that you want to see in your office, and everybody comes in, it's really hard to become attractive. Your magnet is not strong enough. A magnet has to be intense and focused. It has to have a certain gauge. It has to have a certain rhythm. It has to have a certain Gauss, as they call it. It has to have a very specific level of strength in its magnet. And from that point, you put out what you want to come in. And I'm a brain-based pediatric family practice. I see moms and babies and pregnant moms, and that's the bulk of my practice. I lost a lot of people that didn't want to sit with the kids in the office. That's fine. Go down the street. When I got really clear about what I wanted to see, practice just blossomed. And I've done, going back in time, I've done sports medicine, I've done integrative, I've done holistic type stuff. I've done one of the practices I was in, we did heavy nutrition type stuff. So I've done all the different modes. I've done the PI workers comp thing. I've done the sports medicine. I worked with sports teams. I worked with golfers and tennis players and soccer players. It's good for a while, but didn't give me the lasting satisfaction. When somebody walks in and hands me their infant child and says, "I'm not really sure what's going on. Could you just check?" The world that brings you to is beyond anything else that I've ever done.
Man, that's awesome. Can you speak a little bit more to that? Like when did you know that was your avatar, that's a specific population that you want to?
That's a really good question. I've been practicing a long time, and I've seen babies. I've had pediatricians refer me kids. And for the longest time, the babies that came in had torticollis. They had a little bit of an ear infection. That was the bulk of it. They might have rolled off the bed. 10, 11, 12, about 12 years ago, people started bringing me kids with learning disabilities, with immune challenges, with digestive issues, with motor skill problems, gross and fine motor skill issues. And I went, "Oh, this is a little different." And that's what basically pushed me into the ICPA. And basically I went through their entire, I will never not belong to the ICPA. And I've done everything that they've got so far. I take most of their courses. I have to do another 12 hours per year to keep my certifications. I'm 50% on my own through what they require for the diplomate. So if I finish the other 50%, I'm just going to apply for the diplomate, get that in it as well. When you start to be really clear about what happens if you don't open your mouth and you don't tell people the truth and you don't share what you know. Like there's a saying in chiropractic, you never know how far reaching something you think, say, or do will help the lives of millions tomorrow. Well, one of my people in my group says, change it around and say, you never know how far thinking something you don't say, don't do, will affect the lives of millions tomorrow.
Yeah, I like that perspective flip. I feel like that's a very common quote that we hear in chiropractic, but I've never heard it flipped that way in that perspective.
And John, you are a Pathways Connect office, so that's also
Yes,
through
yeah,
the
that's actually part of what. Oh, it's something that sort of came out because again, I said, okay, we got to tell people. Pathways Connect is one of the things that they need you to do for the diplomate. But when it came to seeing a lot of moms, I said, moms are coming in and this mom has this question, and that mom had that question, and the other mom had that question, and then this mom had a second question, and that mom had a third question. I said, wait a minute, why am I answering all these people on a separate basis? And there's always, if I've learned nothing in everything I've done, I know there's strength in numbers. So I basically sent out to all of my moms. I basically told them what it was about. Said this is a Pathways Connect group, and it's a space that I hold. And right now it's for moms and moms to be. Dads are not allowed because if dads show up, moms talk differently. And I'm the only guy there. And basically, I say, okay, you had this question, you had this question. Who else had those questions? And it turns into an hour to an hour and 15-minute dialogue where moms get to share and bare their souls with each other. And I moderate. And then I bring to it the Pathways mindset that everybody is better in clear adjustment than allow the subluxation to resist. So if you allow the subluxation to continue, it has so many developmental differences. So if you're doing all this work to make sure that your children are as healthy as nature intended them to be, and that you know you did a good job, why not just add that little bit more in that makes your job easier and gives that child more of a chance to be the way nature intended them to be. So chiropractic, they see chiropractic as part of the choices that they make for a healthy family.
I love that. Make chiropractic part of the healthy choices they make. And it's such a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we need to get back to. This idea that chiropractic is a lifestyle choice, not a treatment for a condition.
Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah. Johnny, obviously there are people that are watching this that are getting ready to open a practice. If you had to give them just one, like I know there are a lot of things that go into opening a practice, but if you had to pick like one thing that was the most important thing that they either learned or did, or created a good foundation on, what would that one thing be? What do you think is the one thing that makes the biggest impact in a person's practice?
One thing. Feel like Curly in the movie. You need crystal clear clarity on your why. If you don't know what drives you, you don't know why you are opening that practice. And it can't be money, and it can't be paying your student loans, and it can't be anything from the outside. You don't know why you're doing it. You don't have a deep connection to your why. Everything else will be harder. If you know your why, everything else becomes a joy. Giving lectures, standing on a screening on a Saturday afternoon, it's part of your why. It's because you have a bigger mission than serving yourself if you know why you're doing what you do.
That's powerful.
I hope every single person that is opening a practice right now is watching and hearing that. Like, let that sink in, guys, because that is profound.
Mm-hmm.
It's profound. Awesome. So, hey, Johnny, let's switch things up a little bit. So you've on the personal end, outside of chiropractic, you have 2 sons. Is that correct?
I got 2 young men. Yep. They we had 2 boys. That's where we sort of fell into things. And I have one son who's starting his master's as a speech therapist, and I have another guy who's halfway through his undergrad process, heading to become an IT technician. So
Gotcha.
just watching them grow and find out who they are, how they become their own selves, and what it means to stand in the world as a man today. It's been pretty powerful to watch and to help guide, and it's one of my biggest joys.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Did you try to get them to become chiropractors?
They've been adjusted since birth. They have listened on purpose, which is played in my car. They keep threatening to come to New Beginnings with me. They have been to a number of different programs I've been at and spoke at. They understand chiropractic. They get it. They just weren't called for it. So,
What is on purpose?
Oh, On Purpose is an audio it predates podcasts and all of that stuff. It is an audio subscription that for years was done by Dr. Patchen Temple and Christopher Kent. It is now done by Christopher Kent and Dr. Matthew McCoy. And it is, first is science, the second is politics, and the third is philosophy. And they basically gather the research, gather the politics, and they bring in guests to talk about the philosophy. And because it's moderated by somebody like Chris Kent, it's different than anything else. I was with them with cassettes, I was with them with CDs, and they're now online. I have it on my phone. So On Purpose is, I don't know, $600 a year, and it's as long as they're going to do it. I've been a member of it since 1999, and it's something I will always have. It dives deeper. It comes with it a history that is hard to find nowadays. Pat and Chris have been around for so long. Matt has been around for so long that everything old is new again. So if you forget your history, you tend to repeat it. So a lot of the stuff that they bring up is something that was done before, tried before. Paying attention to the history, you find out why our profession's in the shape it's in, how things happen for real. I could blow your socks off telling you how the CCE came about. So just little things like that. But it predates podcasting, and it's basically an audio program. When both of the men were younger, they did a bit more. They would have gatherings and seminars and things like that. But that's Chris is in his late 70s, so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. But it's definitely you can audit it if you didn't want to buy it. You could. There's ways to get it. They offer free subscription for 30 days. Just checking it out, but it's definitely On Purpose is one. If you learn things by hearing, On Purpose is one of the places you should basically feed yourself from.
Very cool. Yeah, appreciate that.
Awesome. That's a great resource. Thank you for sharing that.
I laugh. I kind of chuckled whenever you said that because not that, but at the beginning you talked about Dr. Dick Santo, and I was just getting into chiropractic school as a try one actually, and one of my good friends was involved in an accident, unfortunately, and her dad happened to be a chiropractor. So I had never really been around him, but got to spend some time with him, and his buddy was there, and they said, "What are you doing to grow, not just in school, but grow as a chiropractor?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm a sponge. What do I need to be doing?" And they airdropped me or put in a Dropbox a bunch of Dick Santo audios and a bunch of Reggie Gold audios, and that's what I listened to for my first year at chiropractic school on my way to school every morning. And I was like,
put you in a good place, my friend. Put you in a good place.
And so I have so much gratitude for those guys. So I heard you say that, and I love the picture behind you right now with Dr. Sid. So important to fill your mind with some of these.
And you have to go through phases, because the first time I saw him at Southern Baptist, I said, "He's a madman. Get me out here." And that's why I didn't go to Life. But later on, when I really got to know him and understand what his process was about, I can't say I was personal friends with him, but I met Dr. Williams a bunch of times. Our profession would look very different if he wasn't around. So if he didn't do what he did, he's called the defender of chiropractic. If it wasn't for the fights that he took on in the 70s and 80s, our profession would look a little bit different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things I love that you wrote in your bio here is, and we'll kind of we'll wrap up with this, is iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, you know what? You have to allow yourself to be tested. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to allow yourself to be pulled along. One of the things I tell young chiropractors is, whether you realize it or not, you're right where you're supposed to be. You're fully equipped. You know how not to hurt someone. Now's the time to really begin learning. Like commencement, you have commencement exercises. That really means to begin. It doesn't mean you're finished. But the idea is, start saying yes to things. You never know, you never know how far-reaching some of the things say do affect the lives of tomorrow. The simple act of saying yes and allow yourself to be pulled into the melee, pulled into what you do not understand. When I get into politics, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I started out as a young chiropractor. I am now basically, because I've gone through the process, I'm the guy that they call when they need the people that are in politics now. They call me because I've been through it, and they're calling me now for advice. You know, what I tell people is, if you participate in this profession, the journey that it will take you on is beyond your comprehension. You will meet people, you will have circumstances that develop around you, you'll have experiences that maybe another chiropractor could understand, but sometimes even your spouse or your partner or your brothers or sisters look at you as if you've lost your mind. The people that you meet, the insights that you're given, you know, what I find really important, and I've seen this, I used to marvel at it when I was a younger chiropractor, is that because we ask different questions, because we notice things, chiropractors we get really good at discerning the differences. And that level of discernment is not common. And that only happens when you allow yourself to be tested and pushed. And look, I got a smile on my face because my life is really good right now. I've had bad experiences. I've had all sorts of things that I said, how did I do this to myself? But I just allowed the process to continue because I knew I was in the right place and I was doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah, I love that. And if you guys caught that, there's like a huge piece of advice in there, you know, because it goes back to what you were saying before, Johnny, about always remembering your why, because you're going to go through stuff. You know, you're going to go through life experiences that are not pleasant. You're going to go through practice experiences that are not pleasant. And what gets you through them is the remembrance of your why. That's your fuel.
You know, it's funny, a circumstance that sort of sticks in my mind is I had this conversation with my son the other day. I took part 1, 2, and 3. 10 years ago, I was thinking of moving, so I said, well, took part 4. You know, I was in practice for 20 years and took part 4. And the national boards they're not chump. You know, you got to study for them, right? They're hard. I remember taking my test for my CACCP. It was 15 questions. My initial submission was 106 pages, and they sent it back with clarifications that I had to answer, and that second submission was 146 pages. And I finally get my certification. And I said to my friend, Anthony Carino, who is, among other things, he's on the board of the ICPA. And I said, dude, that test is ridiculous. And he says, kicked your butt, huh? I said, yep. And he goes, what do you think? We hand him out willy-nilly? He says, there's only like 300 CACCPs in the whole country. He said, if you pass that test, he goes, you should be damn proud of it. He says, life is supposed to be hard. He goes, because it wouldn't be worth it if it wasn't. So.
Well, that's awesome. I think, I don't know about you guys, Colton, speak up if you don't agree, but I think that is a really great place to wrap up our podcast.
No, I think that's fantastic. And just the value that you've brought to just me, Dr. Nicole, and our guests listening is man, too much for words. And I think might have to have you on again to expand, because there's a lot I'm interested in hearing about.
I'll be happy. I have a lot to share. I really appreciate you guys having me on today. Oh, Colton, I hope you get down to see you come to New Beginnings. Nicole, I'll see you there. And if people don't know what New Beginnings are, we call it the heart of chiropractic in the Northeast. It's in Asbury Park, New York. You should come down and check us out.
Yeah, I think it's becoming the heart of chiropractic around the country.
And I tell people, part of going to New Beginnings and part of this process and part of the study of the philosophy is to learn to think like a chiropractor. Because when you learn to think like a chiropractor, you see the world through different eyes. You ask different questions. You have a different level of certainty. And that's everything. I believe that that's something that all chiropractic students and all chiropractors to be and all chiropractors that have a license should at least strive for. It makes life, practice, and sharing what we do more fun and easier when you really understand at a deeper level what we do.
Amen.
Have a good day, guys. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely.
Johnny, thank you for spending time with us today.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody, that's a wrap for this week's Thriving in Chiropractic, and we will see you next week. Thanks, John. Thanks, Colton.
See
Have a
y'all.
great day.